The wind ripped across the Montana territory with a wild roar, sweeping cold air through the open land and warning everyone that winter was coming early. The sky hung low and gray, and the mountains in the distance looked sharp enough to cut the clouds in half. Abigail Thornfield stood on her porch, watching the last bit of daylight slip behind those jagged peaks. The setting sun painted the sky in copper and deep red, as if the day itself was bleeding out. 6 months had passed since Samuel died. 6 long months of trying to keep the ranch alive without him. She had fought cattle that refused to stay in the right pasture, fences that broke faster than she could repair them, and nights so quiet they felt like a punishment. Neighbors came by in the early weeks with food and sympathy, but those visits had faded. Folks had their own ranches to run. A widow trying to manage a full spread on her own was something people pitied, not something they expected to last. Abigail tightened her shawl around her shoulders. Her hands were cracked from work. She was only 32, but the land had aged her faster. Lines had begun to form around her green eyes, and her honey-colored hair stayed pinned in a tight, practical bun from morning to night. She was about to go inside when she spotted movement down the road. 2 riders. Her hand moved to the Winchester resting by the door. People did not ride out to a lonely ranch after dark unless they wanted something, and most times they wanted something bad. The riders moved slow, not hiding, so she stayed watchful but did not raise the rifle. As they came closer, she saw the first rider was a tall man wearing a worn, trail-dusted duster. Behind him, clinging to his coat, was a child. They stopped at her gate. The man dismounted carefully, the way someone did after too many days on the trail. "Ma'am," he called, "sorry to trouble you this late. My name's Nathaniel Blackwood. I heard you might need a ranch hand." Abigail kept steady. "Who told you that?" "The man at the general store up in town," he said. "Said the widow Thornfield was trying to keep her ranch going alone. Said you were too proud to ask for help, but maybe not too proud to accept it if someone showed up at your door. That certainly sounded like old Henry, always watching everything, always talking." "And you just happened to be looking for work?" she asked. Nathaniel removed his hat. His dark hair was messy from the wind, and his face carried the look of a man who had lived in the saddle too long. "We've been riding for near 3 weeks," he said. "Me and my daughter. We're trying to find a place to winter. I can work cattle, mend fences, fix equipment. I don't drink or gamble. You'd get honest work for honest pay." The small figure behind him climbed down from the horse. It was a girl, maybe 7 or 8. Her dark hair was tangled. Her dress was worn thin. She held a cloth doll tight to her chest. "Papa," she whispered, tugging his coat sleeve, "I'm cold." Something inside Abigail shifted. The sound of a child's voice in her yard felt like something she had not known she missed until that moment. "What's her name?" she asked. "Evangeline," Nathaniel said, "but we call her Evie." Abigail looked them over. The man's boots were worn through at the sides. His coat had patches in different shades. The child's dress had been let down more than once, the hem showing layers of old stitching. But it was not the clothes that spoke loudest. It was the exhaustion in their eyes. She knew that look well. It was the look of people who had lost something they could never replace. "You can take your horses to the barn," Abigail said. "There's hay up in the loft. When you're done, come in the house. I made stew, more than I can eat alone." Nathaniel gave a small nod of relief. "Thank you, ma'am." Truly. Abigail watched them walk toward the barn. Evangeline held her father's hand tightly, her small steps slow and careful. The wind blew a swirl of dry leaves across the yard, and for the first time in months the place did not feel so empty. Inside, Abigail added wood to the fire and set out 3 bowls. Her hands paused for a moment. 3 bowls. She had not set the table for more than 1 person since Samuel was alive. When Nathaniel and Evangeline came back, their faces were scrubbed clean with pump water. The girl's hair was braided now. She looked shy but hopeful. "Come inside," Abigail said. "Warm up." They entered quietly. Evangeline's eyes grew wide as she looked around. The cabin was simple but clean. Quilts hung on the walls. Samuel's books sat on the shelf he built himself. "It's pretty," the girl whispered. Abigail smiled gently. "Thank you. Would you like to help set the table?" The child nodded fast and carried bowls with careful hands. During supper, Nathaniel ate with the slow, grateful pace of someone who had gone hungry many times. Evangeline ate quietly, her eyelids drooping lower with each bite. "How long since her mother passed?" Abigail asked softly. 4 months, Nathaniel said, trying to steady his voice. "Fever took her. We had a place in Wyoming, but staying there hurt too much, so we rode out, tried to find work where we could." "You've been traveling all this time?" Abigail asked. "Work was hard to come by with a child in tow," he said, "but I couldn't leave her behind." Evangeline fell asleep at the table, her head resting on her doll. Nathaniel started to stand. "I can put her to bed," he said, but Abigail stopped him gently. "Finish your coffee," she said. "I'll take her." She lifted the little girl, surprised at how light she was. Evangeline's small arms wrapped around Abigail's neck in her sleep. The warmth of that small hug broke something inside Abigail, something she had kept locked away since the day Samuel died. She laid the girl on the bed in the small room off the kitchen. The quilt came up to her chin. The child did not wake. When Abigail returned, Nathaniel stood by the fire, staring into the flames. "I'm grateful," he said quietly. "More than you know." "Save your gratitude," Abigail replied. "You'll have plenty to prove. This land is hard. Winter is harder." Nathaniel nodded. "I'll work. Sun up." They stood in silence for a moment, 2 people carrying their own hurts, 2 people trying to keep going one day at a time. That night, as Abigail prepared for bed, she looked toward the small room where Evangeline slept. A child under her roof again. A man she had let inside her home. The wind outside was cold, but for the first time in months, the house felt warm. For the first time since Samuel died, the coming winter no longer felt like something she had to face alone. The smell of bacon and fresh coffee filled the cabin before sunrise, pulling Nathaniel from sleep. For a moment he lay still, listening. The crackle of the fire, the quiet breath of his daughter from the small room, the gentle clatter of dishes as Abigail moved about the kitchen. It all felt peaceful in a way he had not known for a long time. He sat up, pulled on his boots, and stepped into the main room. Abigail was already at the stove, her hair neatly pinned, her apron tied tight around her waist. The table was set for 3. "Morning," she said without turning. "Coffee is ready. Breakfast will be done soon." "Morning," he replied. He poured himself a cup and let the warmth settle into him. It had been weeks since he had smelled real coffee, weeks since he had slept without fear. "You should eat first," Abigail said. "There is time for chores after." "I can help while you finish. Eat first," she repeated. "Winter is coming. A man needs strength." Just then, small feet padded across the floor. Evangeline appeared in the doorway, clutching her cloth doll, her hair still rumpled from sleep. "Papa," she whispered, rubbing her eyes. "I am right here, sunshine. Come here." She ran into his arms, and he lifted her with ease. "Good morning, Evangeline," Abigail said gently. "Would you like some milk with your breakfast?" The girl's eyes widened. "Real milk?" "Fresh from the cow this morning." Evangeline looked at her father. When he nodded, she whispered, "Yes, please, ma'am." They ate together. Bacon, biscuits, eggs. Evangeline ate slowly, carefully slipping half her biscuit into her pocket. "You do not need to save food here," Abigail said softly. "There is plenty." The girl lowered her head. "Mama always said not to waste." "Your mama was right, but in this house you eat until you are full." After breakfast, Nathaniel pushed back his chair. "I should start on the corral fence," he said. "It will not last another week." But Evangeline clung to his hand. "Where are you going, Papa?" "Just outside to work. You can see me from the window." "Can I come with you?" He hesitated. The girl had stayed close to him ever since Martha passed, afraid to let him out of her sight. Abigail stepped in. "The hen house needs checking for eggs." "Think you could help me with that?" Evangeline bit her lip, then nodded. "Yes, ma'am, I can help." Outside, the morning air was sharp and cold. The ranch stretched wide around them, full of fences leaning sideways and buildings that needed care. Nathaniel walked to the barn and gathered tools. The corral fence was in worse shape than he had thought. Some posts leaned so far he could push them with one hand. Others had snapped from age and storms. He set to work, digging new holes, resetting the posts with strong strikes of the hammer. The steady rhythm felt good. It felt like purpose. Every so often he glanced toward the hen house. Abigail and Evangeline moved together, the child following Abigail closely. When the girl lifted her first warm egg from a nest, she squealed loud enough for him to hear. The sound made his chest tighten in a way he did not expect. His daughter had not sounded that happy in months. Around midday, the three met at the water pump. Evangeline held out her apron proudly. "Papa, I found 12 eggs. And there are kittens in the barn. And Mrs. Abigail showed me how to feed the chickens." Nathaniel ruffled her hair. "Sounds like you worked hard." "She did," Abigail said with a smile. "She was a big help." Lunch was simple. Cold beef, bread, jam. Abigail spread a map across the table. "This is the land you will be helping with," she explained. "The north pasture is best for winter. Samuel always—" She stopped, her voice catching for a moment, then continued quietly. "He taught me everything I know about this ranch." Nathaniel nodded. He had learned to listen for the grief people tried to hide. After lunch, Evangeline curled up by the fire with a small kitten pressed against her cheek. Abigail watched her for a long moment, her eyes soft but full of something heavy. "Does she remember her mother well?" Abigail asked. "Some days more than others," Nathaniel said. "She talks to that doll sometimes, tells it things she cannot tell me." Abigail nodded. Children grieve in their own ways. Nathaniel returned to the barn. He found rotted boards in the loft, a coop door barely hanging on, and tools with handles ready to split. He fixed what he could. Sawing, hammering, tightening, replacing. It felt good to repair things. Things he could actually make right. By evening, he had fixed the fence corner, rehung the coop door, and replaced several dangerous boards. His muscles ached, but it was the kind of ache that felt earned. Supper that night was warm and comforting. Evangeline fought sleep at the table until her head finally dropped to her arms. Nathaniel lifted her gently. "She worked hard today," he said. "She did," Abigail agreed. "You both did." After the dishes were finished, and Evangeline tucked into the small room, Nathaniel stepped onto the porch. The sky was dark and full of stars. The land looked calm under the moonlight. Abigail joined him, pulling her shawl tight around her shoulders. "Thank you," she said softly, "for helping today. And for being here. You let us stay," he said. "You fed us. That is more than most have done in a long time." They stood together in quiet, listening to the distant call of a coyote and the soft breathing of the land settling into night. "This ranch is too much for one person," Abigail said. "Some days I think it was foolish to try to hold on to it alone. But I cannot leave it. Not after everything Samuel and I put into it." "You do not have to leave," Nathaniel said. "You are not alone now." Abigail met his eyes. For the first time in months, hope stirred inside her like a small flame refusing to die. "Tomorrow we bring the cattle down from the high pasture," she said. "It is a big job." "I have done big jobs before," he replied. "I hope you are ready." "I am ready." Inside the cabin, Evangeline slept warm and safe. Outside on the porch, the cold wind blew, but neither Abigail nor Nathaniel stepped away from the other. They stood together, two lonely souls beginning to find something new in the wide, quiet night. The next morning rose cold and bright, the kind of morning that warned winter was not far behind. Nathaniel saddled the horses while Abigail packed food for the long ride ahead. Evangeline bounced on her heels, excited to help with real ranch work again. "Today we bring down the cattle from the high pasture," Abigail said. "It will take all three of us." "I will be good," Evangeline promised. "I can help. I know how now." Nathaniel lifted her onto her small mare. "Stay between us, sunshine. Listen close. Do exactly what we say." "I will, Papa." They rode out together. The land stretched wide and quiet around them, painted gold under the early sun. Abigail rode on the right, Nathaniel on the left, and Evangeline between them. The girl kept her back straight, holding the reins with careful pride. The cattle were scattered across a high meadow, fat from summer grass, lazy from warm days. Moving them would take time, patience, and steady hands. Slow and calm, Nathaniel called. Cattle feel what you feel, sunshine. Evangeline nodded. I am calm. I can do it. They worked for hours. Abigail circled wide to push strays back toward the group. Nathaniel guided the herd forward. Evangeline rode in the middle, blocking any cow that tried to wander off. She worked with surprising skill for someone so young. By midday, they had brought half the herd down the slope. They rested the horses near a stream. Evangeline ate bread and jerked beef while swinging her feet happily. You are doing good, Abigail told her. The girl beamed. Really? Better than good, Nathaniel said. You are learning fast. When they finished the work and headed home, Evangeline swayed tiredly in the saddle. Nathaniel rode close in case she slipped. But she kept herself steady, still proud. That night, Abigail handed the girl a silver dollar. For your work today, she said. Fair wages for fair work. Evangeline stared at the coin as if it were magic. My very own dollar. You earned it, Abigail said. That night, the child fell asleep smiling, holding the silver dollar in her small hand. A week passed. The three of them worked side by side. They fixed fences, gathered eggs, cooked meals together, even baked bread. The ranch slowly came back to life. The change in Evangeline was even greater. She laughed again. She asked questions. She followed Abigail like a shadow. One afternoon, Nathaniel found the two of them in the kitchen with flour everywhere, even on the kitten that had wandered inside. Bread is a battle, Abigail said with a straight face. Sometimes the flour wins. Evangeline giggled so hard she nearly dropped her dough. Later that evening, as the warm bread cooled on the table, the girl declared it the best she had ever tasted. Because we made it together, she said. Things taste better when you make them with people you care about. Abigail touched the girl's cheek, moved by the simple truth. Nathaniel watched them both. Something warm and painful tugged inside his chest, something he had almost forgotten how to feel. The trouble came 3 days later. Abigail stepped out onto the porch with a cup of coffee and froze. 3 riders approached. Men she recognized, men she feared. Pike Morrison in front, Hartwell's hired man. Hard eyes, scarred jaw, a man who enjoyed causing trouble. Nathaniel, she called. He stepped out of the barn, pitchfork in hand. His face changed when he saw the riders. Tense. Ready. Evie, he said calmly, get inside. The girl obeyed at once and disappeared into the house. Pike Morrison stopped at the gate. Mrs. Thornfield, he said with a mocking smile. We found some of your cattle on Hartwell land again. Seems you cannot keep them where they belong. That is not possible, Abigail said. We brought them down last week. Calling me a liar? Nathaniel stepped forward. She is saying you are mistaken. Easy to check. Show us the cattle. Morrison's eyes narrowed. And you are the new hand. That is right. The 2 men stared at each other, and Abigail felt the tension rise like heat from the ground. Cattle cross lines sometimes, Nathaniel said. We will check today. If there are strays, we will bring them back. Morrison leaned closer, his voice low and ugly. Hartwell thinks this ranch is too big for one widow to run. Hard winters can break weak places. Accidents happen out here. He glanced at the house window, at the child who had peeked out, especially with little ones around. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. His voice dropped to something cold. This land is dangerous. That is true. Men disappear out here all the time. Sometimes they threaten the wrong family and go missing forever. Morrison flinched, just a small twitch, but Abigail saw it. The man pulled his reins and gave a cold smile. We will be seeing you." They left in a cloud of dust. Abigail was shaking when Nathaniel stepped beside her. "They threatened Evangeline," she whispered. "They threatened us." "I know," he said. "It ends now." The two of them rode the fence lines. They found tracks, signs of men driving cattle across the line just to blame her. A trap laid neat and clean. It was not a surprise, but it filled Abigail with dread. That night, Nathaniel moved his bedroll to the main room, between the door and the hallway. If danger came, it would meet him first. Evangeline was afraid to sleep alone. Abigail let her stay in her room. "Papa," she whispered as he tucked her in, "will the bad men come back?" "Maybe," he said honestly, "but I will keep you safe." "Even you need sleep," she said softly. "You cannot stay awake forever." He kissed her forehead. "We will protect you, all of us." When she slept, Abigail stood at the doorway with tears in her eyes. "She is right," Abigail whispered. "I did not realize how much she has come to mean to me. She feels like my own." Nathaniel met her gaze. "You have given her warmth, safety, love. Things I could not give alone. We are a team now, Abigail. We protect each other." And they stood close. Not touching yet, but almost. The air between them warm with something unspoken. What happened next changed everything. Smoke, screaming cattle, fire. Nathaniel woke to the sound of animals in panic. He ran outside with Abigail right behind him. The barn was burning, flames climbing fast and hungry. The horses, the feed, the tools, everything they needed for winter. Nathaniel ran into the smoke, grabbing reins, opening stalls, pushing terrified animals outside. He saved 3 horses before he heard Evangeline scream from the yard. "Papa, the kittens." He ran back, but the roof collapsed, sending sparks into the air. The barn was gone. The kittens gone with it. Evangeline sobbed into Abigail's arms. "It is not fair. They were just babies." Abigail held her tight. "I am so sorry, sweet pea." In the morning light, they found torch remains and fresh tracks. It was no accident. Hartwell had sent a message. "You will not beat me." But the valley did not react the way Hartwell expected. By noon, neighbors arrived from every direction. Tom Patterson, the Miller boys, ranchers from miles away, men who had seen too much unfairness from Hartwell already. "We saw the smoke," Patterson said. "We came to help." "No widow stands alone out here," another man said. "We build a new barn," said Patterson, "stronger than the last." And together they did. People brought lumber, food, tools, warm blankets. They raised the barn in 3 long days, hands blistered, backs strained. But the work brought them together. That night, as they all rested around the fire, Patterson leaned over to Nathaniel. "You and the widow make a strong team," he said. "Do not let fear stop you from building a life here." Nathaniel did not answer, but he knew Patterson was right. 2 nights later, Hartwell pushed too far. Morrison returned with 8 armed men. They came in the dark, surrounding the house. Nathaniel grabbed his rifle. Abigail hid Evangeline behind her. Morrison shouted, "Come out, Thornfield! Bring Blackwood! We have a warrant!" Nathaniel stepped forward. "Show it! It is in town! Then it does not exist!" Inside the cabin, Evangeline trembled. Suddenly, the sound of hooves thundered across the yard. Patterson, the Millers, half the valley, and the territorial marshal with them. "Drop your weapons," the marshal ordered. "You are trespassing, threatening a woman and child." Morrison tried to run. He never made it far. Nathaniel grabbed him before he reached his horse. They fought hard. Morrison drew a knife. Nathaniel saw red when the blade flashed near Evangeline. He forced Morrison to the ground. A gun fired. Morrison fell still. It was over. Hartwell's men were arrested. The ranch was safe. And Nathaniel gathered Abigail and Evangeline into his arms. They They cried together, relief shaking through them. "You are safe," he whispered. "Both of you." Weeks passed. Hartwell went to trial. The valley spoke out. Records came forward. Witnesses stepped up. Hartwell was removed from power. His land returned or sold fair. At last, the winter storms came. The ranch stood strong. Nathaniel, Abigail, and Evangeline spent their nights by the fire, reading, laughing, living, healing. One quiet spring morning, Nathaniel stood on the porch with a small ring in his hand. "Abigail," he said softly, "I came to your door as a stranger. You opened it with kindness. You gave my daughter a home. You saved us both. I love you. Will you marry me?" Her voice shook. "Yes, yes, I will." Evangeline cheered so loud the horses startled in the pasture. They married under the cottonwood tree, with the whole valley watching. There was music, food, laughter. Evangeline walked down the aisle, spreading flowers and grinning until her cheeks hurt. That night, the three of them stood on the porch together, a family at last. "Papa," Evangeline whispered, "are we all going to stay forever?" Nathaniel placed his arm around Abigail's shoulders. "Forever. Sunshine." The cold wind of Montana blew across the land. But this time, their home was warm, full, alive. They had fought for their place in the world. And they had won.